What's good, y'all? And welcome back to another preseason preview video. In today's video, we're going over the Orlando Magic. In case this is your first preseason preview video of mine you're seeing, basically what I do is go over the offseason, give a little recap there, and then try to look into the future and see what we can expect in this upcoming season. I'm making videos on all 30 NBA teams, and I'm almost there, so make sure you check out my channel for the ones I already uploaded, and then make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the ones coming forward. But let's just jump right into it and talk about the Orlando Magic. Last year was a pretty disappointing season for the Magic. They finished as the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference, going only 41-41. They did end up beating the Hawks in their first play-in tournament game to make the playoffs, but then they very quickly lost in 5 games to the Boston Celtics in the first round. And again, that was pretty disappointing considering the year before that, they were 1 game away from making the second round, beating the Cleveland Cavaliers, and they were, the 4 seed or the 5 seed that year as well. So to fall down in the standings and then also lose quicker in the playoffs, it is a little disappointing. But at that same time, last year, pretty much throughout the entire year, the Magic were dealing with injuries. You had Paolo Banchero, their main star player, who only played 46 games. Jalen Suggs only played 35. To a lesser extent, Mo Wagner, he only played 30. Franz was dealing with injuries. Like, it was literally throughout their whole roster, they were dealing with injuries. And now when you look at them this year, the Eastern Conference is as wide open as it's been in years. And as long as they stay healthy, they look like they could be one of the top teams in this conference. So let's just get right into it and start talking about the offseason for the Orlando Magic. Before we talk about the guys that they brought in, I do want to highlight the guys that they lost. And they really only made one big move that made them lose some players. That is, of course, trading for Desmond Bane. Again, we'll talk about Desmond Bane and the other additions in a second. But the entire trade, in case you guys missed it, it was Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, and then a bunch of draft picks. In case you guys are wondering, the draft capital involved in this trade was the 16th overall pick from this year's draft, a 2026 first round pick, a 2028 first round pick, a 2029 first round swap, and then a 2030 first round pick. So all in total, 4 first round picks and a swap to make 5 total picks. And obviously that is a lot of draft capital. That's a lot of value. That is big stakes going into Desmond Bane here. But I do want to just stay on the players for a second before we really move on throughout the entirety of the trade. Obviously the main value of this trade is the draft capital. The players more or less are basically just salary filler in here. KCP, he signed to the Magic last offseason and was looked at as one of their saviors for the three-point shot. He was a good three-point shooter throughout his entire career. The Magic struggled with that, so they signed him. Hopefully he can fix that issue. He didn't really fix that issue. He had a very poor shooting season. He still helped defensively and made an impact. I just think it's very obvious that KCP was a big disappointment for the Magic. He didn't bring exactly what they were looking for. So to include him in this trade for an upgrade, it makes sense. And then kind of similarly with Cole Anthony. I'm a big fan of Cole Anthony. I think he's a good player. He just kind of got buried on this pretty deep Orlando Magic roster, especially when you look at the guard position. You had Jalen Suggs, who broke out as their lead guard, and then you had like Anthony Black taking a lot of the backup point guard minutes. So Cole Anthony really didn't have a main role on this team. And then, again, it kind of makes sense to allow him to just go to a different team, be the salary filler, and then they get an upgrade. So you Orlando Magic fans are going to have to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I don't think the Magic are going to miss either of these players. Like I said, the draft capital is the main value of this trade, and that's the main thing that they might miss going forward. Obviously, 5 draft picks going all the way to 2030. That's a big investment. But player-wise, I don't think they're really missing out on too much. And now we can move on to talk about the guys that they brought in. And of course, I will start with Desmond Bane, the biggest addition for the Magic. I really do like this trade, just like the fact that they get Desmond Bane. I love that. Whether or not they overpaid with their draft capital, I think that could be debated. But Desmond Bane, just solely as a player being added to this Magic roster, I think it's a perfect fit. Desmond Bane is a super talented player, probably one of the more underrated players just because he never really is close to an all-star conversation or anything like that, but he has that talent, that scoring ability to put up some of those big nights like an all-star player could do. Where I think he's going to help the Magic the absolute most is with his three-point shooting. I mentioned they brought in KCP last offseason to try to help their three-point shooting. It didn't work. Desmond Bane, I think, should definitely help way more than KCP. He is just all around a better shooter than KCP, more efficient. He could do it at a higher volume in a more variety of ways. KCP is mainly a catch-and-shoot shooter, but Desmond Bane can do it off the catch. He could do it as a movement shooter. He could do it off the dribble, in the pick and roll, pull-ups. He could do basically any type of three-point shooting. So not only is he going to help the Magic with his variety of three-point shooting, but the pure volume that he's going to bring. He is by far going to be the best three-point shooter on this team. Again, we kind of saw last year that like one person can't really fix an entire team's spacing. So I am interested to see where some of the other progression of shooting is going to come from. Will it be Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Wendell Carter, whatever it is? Like I do think that they need a little bit more than just Desmond Bane, but Desmond Bane is going to be a huge help in that aspect. And then one of their other big issues that I see is ball handling / playmaking, however you really want to word it. And Desmond Bane is not a point guard. He's not going to be like a main playmaker or anything like that, but he is a very effective ball handler. He makes the right passes and can operate in a pick and roll, kick out to guys if the defense collapses. He is a capable passer, and especially when your roster is almost devoid of like any real playmakers, having a bunch of capable playmakers definitely helps. It's not only me seeing these issues on the Magic's roster though, because the Magic themselves have addressed the playmaking and the shooting issue more than just adding Desmond Bane. They also signed Tyus Jones to a 1-year, $7 million contract. The last few seasons in Washington and in Phoenix, Tyus Jones has been the starter point guard, and I do think that that's a little bit overtaxed for him. He's a very capable player, but I think at the best of his abilities, he's going to help your team best as your backup point guard, and I do think that that's what he's going to be here in Orlando. And at that case, he is one of the better backup point guards in the entire NBA because he does a few different things that I just really value from my backup point guards. That he can shoot the three ball, he can play make, and he doesn't turn the ball over. He is one of the best assist to turnover ratio players in the entire league for years now at this point. A lot of people say that's because he doesn't take risk with his passes, and some of that may be true, but regardless, when you have, again, a roster that's almost devoid of true playmakers, having someone like Tyus Jones could go so far for their offense and keeping the flow going. Not having those bad turnovers because your point guard knows how to keep the ball secure is extremely important. And then also, like I said, he has the three-point shooting ability where if Paolo is, bringing the ball up as the point forward, because he sometimes does that, he's able to just be off-ball space and, still be effective in the offense. And again, that is another big issue the Magic dealt with. I think that Desmond Bane and Tyus Jones, both of their skill sets fit this team exactly for what they need. You guys might be starting to pick up a theme here, but this next player kind of fits this same mold. Jace Richardson was drafted 25th overall by the Orlando Magic this offseason, and I look at him as kind of a undersized two-guard. He's only 6'3", but he definitely fits his game more as a shooting guard, a score-first type of player. But Richardson was able to bring good ball handling, secure ball handling here to Orlando. His three-point shooting is also one of his better strengths. Even though he is kind of a three-level scorer at this point, he's able to get to his pull-up mid-range. He's able to get to the rim and convert. He is very good at just being a movement shooter, a three-point shooter. Off the ball, he's able to do it, which, again, is super important to this roster. I don't know if he's going to get as much burn as guys like Desmond Bane and Tyus Jones. Obviously, he is just a late first-round rookie, but you could see the idea that the Magic had going into this offseason. They wanted to address their offense because that was their main issue for the last few seasons now. And last but not least, before we move on, even though it's not technically a new addition, they did re-sign one of their own free agents, Mo Wagner. They re-signed him to a 1-year, $5 million contract. I mentioned at the beginning of the video, Mo only played 30 games last year. That's because he tore his ACL. Really sucks to see. Hopefully he's able to get fully healthy back and is still able to produce to the level he did previously, but it is good to see that he's back here in Orlando. And now that we recap the offseason, let's take a look at a potential rotation we could be seeing in Orlando this season. In their starting lineup, we have Jalen Suggs, Desmond Bane, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and Wendell Carter Jr. And then off the bench, we have Tyus Jones, Anthony Black, Tristan Da Silva, Jonathan Isaac, and Goga Batadze. So it's not up for debate that the Magic added talent, obviously getting guys like Desmond Bane, Tyus Jones. That is very good for their team, and again, addresses their main issue, which is their offense. I still have questions on if it's going to be enough. I do like the addressing of their playmaking, their ball handling. I feel like that should be solid enough because along with guys like Desmond Bane, Jalen Suggs, Tyus Jones, Anthony Black that handle the ball, they play a lot through their guys of Franz and Paolo. So having those point forwards kind of make it so you don't need a true ball handler or point guard 100% of the time. I do think that ball handling just divvied up between all of those guys should be good. I still have some question marks about the three-point shooting. I do think that unless Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero both become at least league average shooters, I think they will struggle with three-point shooting and spacing. Not only will it help the entire team, but it will help them individually as players as well. Obviously, having that threat needing to be guarded, further up the court, it just opens up the game more for you, but also for each other. Like Franz and Paolo like to operate in the mid-range, like to get to the rim, and if defenses are easily able to just collapse the paint like that, it makes their job harder. So until at least one of them, but ideally both of them, are able to be league average three-point shooters, I don't think the Magic are going to have like a top 10 offense or anything like that. Now you might be saying to yourself, like, maybe they don't need that because their defense is so incredibly good, and yeah, I kind of get that. I do know, like, if they want to take that next leap, I think, like, to be a true championship contender, I do think they need to have a top 10 offense. I don't know if this is the roster that gets them there, but regardless, they will still have an improved offense, definitely. And then their biggest strength really is their defense, and that is no issue, no question. They still have all of that intact with the amount of length, size, athleticism that they have on this roster. They are still great defensively. Kind of like what I was saying, where I think that they're going to struggle as a team until Franz and Paolo develop that jump shot. I think the fact that Franz and Paolo have both really been empowered on the defensive end and impact the game as well as they have, I think that allows them to reach the highs that they reach defensively. Having your stars kind of buy into being these two-way players at that elite level definitely makes it easier for other guys to be involved and to be bought into that as well. But it's not just those two guys, obviously. Like, Jalen Suggs is one of the better guard defenders in this league. Anthony Black off their bench, I think with his size, is one of the better disruptors. Jonathan Isaac, like minute by minute base, he has some of the most productive minutes defensively as anyone. Goga Batadze, I think, is still super underrated. I love what he brings both defensively and offensively, honestly. And you could argue that their new additions of Tyus Jones and Desmond Bane limit them a little bit defensively. And with Tyus Jones, considering he's a small point guard, I could kind of say yeah, but I mean, if you have 1 out of 4 players on your team being like a traffic cone, I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. I think that they have enough defensive infrastructure to really make it so Tyus Jones isn't like unplayable, like I think that they'll be able to cover up for him. And then Desmond Bane, not that he is a good defender or a great defender or anything, but he comes from a team, the Memphis Grizzlies, that are a great team defense. Him individually as a player isn't going to lock someone down, but he knows rotations. He knows how to help and to play his guy into where his help is. He's a smart defender. He knows how to operate as a team defense, and I think that that is arguably more important than being just a solely locked down like individual player. And before we move on, I do want to mention some notable reserves that didn't make my rotation. Starting off, I want to talk about Mo Wagner. Like I mentioned, he's coming off ACL surgery, so I don't know fully if he's going to be ready for the start of the season or not. Regardless, though, luckily for him and the Magic, they have great big man depth between Goga Batadze, Wendell Carter, Jonathan Isaac will even run some center. Paolo can run some small ball center if needed. So I don't think it's going to be a big rush to get Mo Wagner back on the court. Once he is healthy, though, he is definitely productive enough where he can come off their bench, give them a quick 12 and 5 and call it a day. Like, he is a good basketball player, definitely deserves some type of play. I also have Jet Howard here. I do think that he is one of their best three-point shooters on their roster, so I've mentioned that I'm a little worried about their three-point shooting. If it is still a serious struggle, I could see them inserting Jet Howard to try to improve that spacing and get just more shooting out there. And then similarly, I do have Jace Richardson in that same category because of his three-point shooting ability. If they really are in dire need of it, I could see them inserting him into the lineup to try to help that spacing. And now it's time to go over my ceiling, floor, and expectations for the Orlando Magic. Starting at their ceiling, I could see them being as high as the 2 seed. I've mentioned before that I feel like there's pretty clear tiers in the Eastern Conference. I think there's a clear top 2 of the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks. Then below that is where you have your teams like the Orlando Magic, the Atlanta Hawks, the Detroit Pistons, Milwaukee Bucks. You know, they have kind of those teams in that tier. At their peak, though, their ceiling we're talking about for the Magic right here, I do think that they could jump one of those teams in the top tier. In my mind, it is very difficult for them to be the number 1 seed and be better than both Cleveland and New York, but I definitely see a situation where they're better than at least one of those teams. And then when it comes to their playoff ceiling, I could see them having a very deep run. I've mentioned that they haven't had that playoff success just yet with Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner and this core right here. They've been first round exits, but I do think that this is their most talented team. So because of that and the fact that the East is a little bit wide open right now, I could see them going as far as the Eastern Conference Finals. At their floor, I could see them being as low as the 6th seed. Like I mentioned, there's kind of those tiers here, and at their floor, this would be as low on that tier as possible. I definitely think that, again, there's a clear, like, top 6 teams. They should, no doubt in my mind, they should be above the play-in tournament. Obviously, if everyone gets hurt, then you never really know, but we can't predict injuries. At their absolute floor, they should definitely be the 6th seed. And then when you talk about their playoff floor, I do think that there is a case where they continue their trend of just being first-round exits. Like I said, though, I do think this is their most talented roster, so I think that they would definitely put up a big fight. I think it would be closer to when they took the Cavs to 7 than when they just lost to Boston in 5. I think it'll be a way more competitive series, but at their floor, I do think that they could be tough first-round exits. And then when you talk about my expectations for them, I expect them to be the 4th seed. I was very close going back and forth between the 3 seed and the 4 seed for them. I settled at that 4 seed, though. I definitely think that they are a home court advantage team in the first round. And then for playoffs, I do think that they are a very good team. I think that they are built to have one of the better defenses in the entire NBA while having improved offense. And because of that, I do think that they can make it past their hump and actually win a playoff series, make it to the second round. Once you get there, though, I mean, again, I don't know if I would definitely take them over a team like the Cavs or the Knicks or maybe a sleeper team like the Hawks or something that they get hot at a certain time. So what I'm expecting from them is to be a tough second round exit. What do you guys think, though? Let me know in the comments below where you think the Orlando Magic are going to finish in this year's standings, as well as how far do you think they can make it in the playoffs. With the Eastern Conference as open as it is and the improvements to the roster that they made, I definitely think there's a wide range on where they can end up. So let me know what you guys think. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave it a like, subscribe so you don't miss the next one. In the description, there's links to all my social medias, so make sure you follow me on all those to keep up to date with me. Catch ya.